We try to figure out what's gonna be best for the actual modules. And obviously the Central East has a need right now. So there's 25 bodies in the program right now that belong to us. 8 of those bodies are driver operators. The rest are firefighters. So we're bringing in more firefighters to hopefully try to give you guys the staffing that you're looking for. And I think we had this conversation before. We try our best to try
We've had it many times.
Yeah,
And so-
that's why everybody's here, and that's why
No,
everybody's
and I totally understand, and it's one of those things. I understand where you're coming from, because everybody has frustration when it comes to the
Well,
program.
I know because my husband, Audibert, used to work here.
Okay,
And he is one of the locals who was told by Mecham and everybody else in your big old county meetings,
What?
he's gonna stay there.
He's
Yes.
supposed to be here around
Instead,
7.
they were moving him around him and, Benin.
and Benin, and just to give you guys a heads up, I think I mentioned this last meeting, Benin is part of that support function to where he should be able to respond from his house. So that pretty much allows him to be that one.
Oh, they gave that deal to him?
They gave that deal to
Oh,
him.
really? Cause they offered my husband and they never came back to
If your husband wants, if he's interested,
No,
we're still
he's
looking
not
for.
interested anymore, no.
Now, as you
He's
said-
done.
Yeah,
Please
he's
sit
done
right
with
on out of here. I know, Captain Ortega, that you don't have any idea about any of this, but our community is fairly invested in this because I'll speak for myself, what I observed being on the board and being a member of this community. I feel that Mike Audibert, who is a very amazing person who cared about our community, was literally, quite frankly, chased out of this station. They were told he could keep his job. He was told all this stuff, and they came right in here and they just wiped it out. And it was gone, and that was before your time. That was when Johnson came up in here. And he was supposed to work right alongside Johnson and not lose any of his responsibilities, and from what my understanding is,
Johnson get
the next month they just wiped him out.
It's the same
And we
thing that's
lost-
going to go
we
on in
lost one of our
Julian. It's
most
just a matter
valuable
of time.
assets in this community. He cares about our community, he cares about the people here, he's invested in this community, his
Well, he
family's
lives
here, and they just shuffled him right on out of here.
When you say Corey Bennett is able to do what you're just talking about, that Mike wanted to do, if he's assigned somewhere else, it's impossible for him to do that.
Yeah.
From his house, because he's, doesn't
You're
matter.
talking
Bennett, you just said Bennett can respond from his house, it's like what?
So,
Mike Audibert.
and you guys are aware that he actually has a job now in Calamasa, I believe.
Right.
He's a fire captain.
That's what
So
Oh, yeah.
on his time off, he's able to go ahead and do so.
Oh,
That's,
on his time.
but that's totally up to him, obviously,
Okay.
not something that I have a say and say, hey, you will cover this and that.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's pretty much at his given time, whatever is available to give back to the community and the station. So,
Okay.
but yeah, he is available to do so if he has the time to do so. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say.
So it's just,
Well, I have a question. I think it was 2 years ago, January, that Mecham was here?
Mm-hmm.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Up in here with CAL FIRE and the county, a bunch of them in their uniforms, saying that we were gonna have an EMT by April.
Yep.
And we were gonna be fully staffed. So when you come in here and say that we have 6 people coming out here,
let's just say.
I know it's
You
not
don't
your
have a lot of
fault.
faith. No,
It's not
you
your
know what?
fault,
And
but
it's-
it hurts.
Yeah.
It
No,
hurts.
I understand where you guys are
Don't
coming
shoot the
from, and I'm just
messenger,
trying to give you guys the information that I have.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to share it. If you guys
You
wanna
got a
take,
tough job.
no,
Yeah.
if you guys wanna take it, take it. If you don't, throw it out back.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna continue to just bring you guys what I have. That's all I can do. Like I said, I try my best to get you guys covered. And I think I mentioned in the last couple meetings, if I'm here and you guys run into anything, bring it to me. I am an EMT. Yeah, we'll try our best to get it going, but
What is the difficulty in getting coverage here?
driver operators. That's
On the patrol or what?
Yeah, they're getting
just
chased
in
away.
general, just driver operators. So, and
To
this, I think
operate
we
any
talked about this
vehicle?
last couple. So by the time the kids get to that point, they're just well educated, well trained, that they're now enticed to go to other departments, and so they're getting picked up and they're starting their career in the fire service.
That makes no sense. They can't, so they don't even, we're not even
Well-
able to drive and respond to a call. If they're in, then what's the benefit of the reserve program if they can't drive and respond to a call?
And we were offered this 2 years ago when Mecham was here. He said that we were going to move the patrol up here so that people were not necessarily drivers could drive. And now you guys once again have changed the rules. Not only just here, but in Julian you have changed the rules where now someone who's not a driver can't get in a patrol. So the same thing we were promised 2 years ago, you guys have changed the rules. So what was the point of moving the patrol here?
It's a Class C vehicle.
It's just like driving my car. Does anyone have an
county
answer
doesn't.
for that?
I'm sure it probably has to do with the insurance and the.
And it's gonna be,
coverage and
obviously,
all
there's
that.
different qualifications that we all have to go through to be able to pump.
I'm sorry, it's a Class C vehicle.
No, and I understand that, because everybody.
If you have a driver's license and you can
If
save a
you-
life, why are
if
they
you have a
being,
firefighter-
why are they being
If you
denied?
have a firefighter endorsement, then you can drive that vehicle. So it is a Class C with a firefighter endorsement,
Yeah.
meaning that you have to go through the proper.
So is our
training.
rescue, but there's no firefight, there's no water on it, there's nothing, it's just a rescue. And we're having rules by CAL FIRE that
And
we
it's-
have to have a driver 1A
it's
class,
not
a
CAL
firefighter
FIRE's
endorsement.
If
Well, it
guys-
is when you have a CAL FIRE chief right here, and that's our chief.
So Karen,
Tony here?
I
Yes.
just want to clarify
No,
real
it's
quick.
Jeremy.
This isn't a Julian meeting, so
I-
if you and
I
wanna talk
could-
about
no,
something-
I can have
you know what,
input if I
it's,
want.
it's completely
No.
relevant to
Absolutely.
the situation,
Community
because
meeting.
Absolutely.
you guys have made promises to us that you're making the same promises to Julian. I was at the LAFCO meeting, okay? I heard you promise to Julian that their volunteers are gonna be able to stay in their station. We were promised that. Everything that you've promised them, you've promised us, and you've broken them. So it's completely relevant. If she has something to say in our meeting, we have welcomed her here. And I suggest that you guys help accommodate, because everything going on in this meeting is relevant. What's going on with the takeover up there is relevant to what happened with the takeover here. The lies that we heard in the meeting are relevant to the lies that we all have been told for 2 years.
So what's
Long
the?
more.
Try 10 years.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, Tony, I know you just walked into the middle of this, but the county promised us 10 years ago that our station would be staffed.
Look at how
We have
beautiful
done,
it is.
the Ranchita Fire Department, we have done everything that the county has asked us to do. We have, we leased the building and the property, and the county came in and gave us new water tender and new fire engine and rebuilt the building, and all that's wonderful. But there's no staffing here. 8 days. There was 7 days in June. There's 8 days in August, okay? That's just, the people in this community are pissed, irritated, and angry.
And driving themselves to the hospital.
And
now
yeah,
fire-
literally driving themselves to the hospital because they don't have faith if they call 911 that anybody's gonna be here to respond.
We had a 65-year-old guy last month drive himself to the hospital. Not himself, his wife drove him, or
Actually,
girlfriend.
we had a young
Yeah.
disabled person in this community within the last month that if his dad hadn't been a former EMT,
He'd have
be
been dead.
He's still in the hospital, I believe.
As a former board member for 10 years, and I helped facilitate building this station because of what we were promised, I would like to know, where do we go? The board has done their job or is trying to communicate with CAL FIRE or get answers. So now I'm gonna be, as a community member, I'm pissed because I wanna know, and now I see what happens to Julian, what do we do? Please, let us know what we can do as a community, because obviously your promises are not working. And that's what, we're watching Julian, and that's why everybody's coming to their
Let me
defense.
set a few ground rules, because I walked into this. Okay? I came out here to listen to the community and answer your questions, and I think I have some stuff. I'm gonna give you information, so I wanna be really clear. This is not about Julian. This is about Julian, I'm leaving. Okay, number two, if we are going to throw lies and accusations at me or my staff, then I'm going to leave. If we wanna have a conversation to try and understand the issues, I'm more than willing to
Okay,
sit down and have a discussion and listen and see if we can work towards a positive solution.
okay, fine.
for that.
Yeah, I agree, sir, and I didn't,
So,
I apologize.
And just
I
to
apologize for
clarify,
my,
the strong words that you just used, lies and accusations, these are perceptions. This is what people believe to be untruths. If you don't like the word lie, fine. But this is the perception of people in this community.
This
It's
wasn't
the
created by us.
experience
So
of
it-
the people
so-
here.
So I don't think the intent is to be malicious
I apologize.
or name calling.
We're
The
frustrated.
perception is that what we've been told for
years,
10 years at least that I've been here has not come to fruition, and what can we do?
and trust me, I have no problem hearing people's frustration, but we have to have you know, a
down.
respectful
Yeah.
discussion about the issue
Okay,
is all I'm asking. So I'm gonna give you some information on some response times and a few things that you can set up. I will tell you to kind of sum up the endpoint. The situation that we are seeing here is the same situation that we are seeing with every volunteer reserve fire department in the state of California. We cannot keep people. We cannot meet the legal requirements, and I can go into extensive detail on how, while that is a Class C vehicle, it requires a lot more training than a Class C. It's not the vehicle, it's the capabilities of the vehicle and the job that we ask the people that drive that vehicle to do. I could put anybody in this room to go drive that vehicle to a fire, but are you trained and are you going to be safe and do you know what to do when you get there? So yes, we have standards in training. I can give you all of the codes, they're in compliance with Senate Bill 1207. I do not have the legal authority to violate the law when it comes to training standards. I don't. And that is an issue that is being faced by every fire department here. And yes, I have been to this community on several occasions. We have re-racked our reserve program. We have re-racked it again. We tried to move all of the reserves out here. I will tell you straight out, most of the reserves don't like coming here. It's not because they don't like the community. This is a very slow fire station. And the reserves tend to be young men and women that are in the college program that want career jobs. And that was initially how our program was designed. And they want those career jobs, so they want to be at a busier place. They want to be with career staff. They want to be on a paramedic fire engine. So we have retooled this. The answer, and the only answer here that I can give you, is we need to put career staffing in.
but we
That
have
is
to do
the
that,
answer.
because that's what we've been asking for years.
I agree, and you have to understand that career staffing is near $1 million a year. Okay, last year we had 34 calls in this community. Now the station responds to a lot more, it serves a regional area, but we had 34 calls here. Those 34 calls, and I'll look at the numbers, but the average, and I understand too, when you are the person calling 911, you could give 2 hoots about the average response time. Right. But the average response time is 15 minutes here. And in the county general plan and the standard, that is an acceptable standard. This is a outlying area that is very hard to serve. And so when you are going through a process with county government to get an expenditure of $1 million, is yes, there has been a series of steps. So what I have tonight to share with you is I'm submitting an issue paper. I've had a discussion with the Deputy County Administrative Officer, and we really have 4 options. Option 1 is we do nothing, and I don't think that's a very good option. And we tell the community, look, you choose to live in this outlying area, this is the standard that you're gonna provide, and we go on. I don't think that's an acceptable answer to anybody in this room. The second is we look at partial career staffing. We staff the station 4 days a week, and we see if we can get the reserves here the other 3 days. While I think we would see a temporary improvement in that, what we are seeing is that we are not seeing the reserve stay in the reserve program long enough to get the driver qualification. Our average reserve right now, Los Angeles City, Orange County, all of the major fire departments are getting ready to do a hiring. There's hundreds of jobs there. So our average reserve is with us about 2 years, some of them slightly less.
Okay, my question was, isn't there a required amount of time that a reserve is supposed to serve before they're allowed to,
Yeah, I thought that.
in order to
Timeframe.
repay the county for their training that they got?
Nope.
I thought that the reserves were supposed to stay in the system at least a year or 2 years.
There was it's called the Indentured Servitude Act. You cannot require somebody in a government agency to stick around and pay back. This was a court case that went through in relation to agencies that had paid for employees to go to paramedic school to say, well, you have to work for us 2 years and you can't hold anybody.
You know
So
the case that was?
I'll have to look it
Yeah,
up.
because I have a sister-in-law that works for the federal government now. They sent her through college, she owes 2 years.
That's the federal government. But in essence, so we're just not seeing the reserves. We have a lot of reserves in the front door. We have a lot of them. We have however many today at the orientation. But they're not getting to the point where they're gonna be drivers. So the answer is we have to put career staff. So I'm gonna submit 3 proposals from hiring going 4 days a week to 7 days a week, and then also what it would cost to implement ALS services here.
ALS.
Paramedic.
Life
Option
That's
two,
paramedic.
that's option two, still,
Option 3.
option two.
So option 1 would basically be that we staff the station half-time with career staff and reassign the rest of the reserves here.
That's option two, right? Option one was do nothing.
Option one.
Option 1 is do
I wanna
nothing.
make sure to be clear in my notes here.
Option 1 is basically do nothing. Option 2 is that we hire a firefighter 2. We put Captain Ortega back on shift work. We have a relief shift that would cover the 4th day of the week here, and then we reassign the remainder of our drivers here and see if we can get coverage. I think that might, with the reserves, buy us some coverage for a while. It's not a permanent fix. And then the third option is go basic life support 7 days a week.
BLS, or could you say it ALS?
Well, first, the first option is BLS,
Okay.
and then the fourth option is paramedics.
7 days a week.
Yes.
But that's dependent on getting the funding. Correct.
So the $1 million, just, sorry, so I'm clear, that's funding to pay for,
Staffing.
but which of these options? The last one or?
The
That's a
last
career
one.
station.
So it starts to hire just a firefighter and put Captain Ortega back on shift work, fully loaded with benefits is about 150 to 170. And then you go all the way up to just under $1 million for paramedic level staff. So we've reached that point, right? I mean, we've reached that point where we're never going to give you folks 7 day a week, 100% coverage, try to maintain an all volunteer reserve fire department. It's not gonna happen. So what I need your help on is to work with me as I take this proposal through the county to write letters of support, not letters of anger, to reach out to not only Supervisor Horn, but we are in an election to see who the new supervisor is going to be, and work with me to get the money allocated. I'm going to ask for it at mid-year. It's the next opportunity that I have to gain additional funding is January 1st at the mid-year review.
So basically, until then, we'll continue in the staffing pattern that we currently have.
Until January.
8 days a week, 8 days a week.
Well, more, beyond January.
I have a question,
Funded some.
and I mean this like, just because I know I've asked it a few times, but I really want to know the answer. When we moved to Ranchita, my husband and I bought our home here, we were thrilled to find a home where we could see this beautiful new fire station from our kitchen window. There was people here. We felt safe. We have a child. We encouraged our friends to move here. They did, some of them, one of them at least. But you know what the realtor didn't tell us is that no one's ever there. So, we bought this home feeling safe, feeling it was a good, nice place to raise our child with our neighbors and the people that we care about here. And it was not so. But what I know to be true is that 10 or whatever years ago that this all started before my time, but I have many friends here who've told me I've been on the board long enough and heard all these stories from all these people. This is what was promised, that we'd be staffed. Before we had a volunteer fire department, we had our friends and our neighbors that would help us, that we could count on. And they could respond from home. It might not have been perfect. Probably no fire station ever is, even fully career stations probably aren't perfect. But the county came in and pushed it out forcefully, according to some people. And they made all these promises, you'll be staffed all the time. And people felt, well, maybe it'll still be safe. And then it wasn't. And it never was. And then what I was told when I asked this question the last time is that, because I want to know why. Why would that happen to us? From the people that we count on to keep us safe, the people we elect to take care of us, why would this happen? And I was told by the people, well, I was told by a CAL FIRE employee, and Captain Ortega here agreed, that Ranchita doesn't meet the requirements for this program, and we never have. So why couldn't we just be left to what we had, which was better than what we have now? Why? I know it doesn't really matter, but
It
my
does.
heart wants you to know that it matters to me and my family and my neighbors and the people who live here that I care about. That answer matters. Because why aren't we taken care of like we were promised? Why? We could have done this on our own.
And we're doing it on our own.
Yeah.
We are doing it on our own,
We
but I'm
did.
going to tell you that there's many people in this community that won't be able to do it on their own much longer, and there's people here that if something happened, they would be dead. And they matter. Their lives matter just as much as anyone anywhere else. My city friends cannot comprehend what? They said, what? Because they could never drive by their fire station and see it on stuff. What? And they drive out here, and heaven forbid a fire happened, they'd be on their gas getting out of here because they see that we don't have anyone here. Nobody can understand that because we pay taxes too. We're not dollar signs here. We're people. We're lives. We're families. And we're a community that is owed what we were promised. Unfortunately, apparently, I don't know what the contract says because I haven't been able to review it, but it hasn't happened for us. And I just want to know why, because it matters to me, and it matters to my family, and it matters to my friends. Why? Why did they make those promises? Why didn't they just let us be?
So, a couple things. One, I can't answer about the promises that were made 10 years ago because I wasn't here. I have nothing in writing, and I have nothing to confirm or deny what you're saying or what those promises were or not. What I will tell you is I have not changed my message to this board in the nearly 5 years I've been the chief here, and that is that the days of volunteer firefighters, it's a dying breed.
No, it isn't.
It didn't have to
No,
be.
it isn't.
The legal,
No, it isn't.
okay, I'm speaking now, so if you let me speak, that the legal requirements to be a firefighter in the state of California are codified in state statute. What we had 10 years ago was good people trying to do good things, and while we may have had numbers, we did not meet the law or Cal OSHA law. There is currently several OSHA investigations that are currently occurring today in this county over this. And so whether we're here or we're not here, the ability to maintain a volunteer fire department is extremely difficult unless you have a core group of people that are willing to commit to very high training standards and a lot of time. So I do believe that probably 8 or 9 years ago, and I wasn't here, that the people that said at the time felt that the reserve program the county was doing was going to make things better. When I came in 2014, it was very clear to me back then that maintaining this system was not sustainable and that we lose people faster than we can keep them in the system. The rate of attrition is higher than the rate of people staying because of the training requirements and the cost requirements and all of the other mandates that are thrown. The reserves and the volunteers are spectacular when we think about it operating at the entry-level firefighter level. We have a lot of people, but trying to get them to the experience of being a supervisor is extremely challenging. And so, again, the answer here is we have to put career staffing here. That's the answer.
So,
If that's what you guys have been telling
but,
us.
so,
I have not, just to be clear,
Yeah.
ma'am, I've been here, I have never said that here.
He has not.
I have not
Okay.
said that. I've said that
So-
we were hold on. I have said we are reformatting the reserve program. We are shifting. We've staffed career other places for whatever those reasons were to the county, and that we had moved reserves here, that we were making efforts, right? I have never, and I appreciate, but I've never come in here and said I'm going to give you career staff until tonight, because we are seeing the numbers dropping faster than we can bring them in. You know, if I had 100 kids going through the driver program right now, I would be here telling you probably what I did a year ago, but the fact of the matter is we don't.
How come we can't just have our local firefighters?
You're not properly trained.
What?
No, we have properly
Liability.
trained firefighters.
So I would ask you this. You develop a list of local firefighters that live here.
Audubon and Bennon.
That's
Okay.
2.
So
Let's,
no, let me answer this gentleman's question. And I'll talk about, we have support reserves, we're allowing both those gentlemen to cover from home. But
No,
you leave.
No, I'm sorry, I disagree. You guys offered that to my husband. It was never followed up by Johnson. So my husband just went ahead and said, forget it.
Okay, so,
And we're not allowed to respond from home either in Julian.
so you gather a list of firefighters in this community with their training certs, and I will come back to a meeting and we will go through each and every one of those to see if they can be here. But I've heard this before, we have people in the community, fine. Have those people come down and bring me their qualifications.
I have a problem or an answer to this, because honestly, there's other people in this community that if this was allowed, we would step up. But if you're gonna send me to Julian, I'm not gonna step up. But if I can respond from a call from my house that's less than a block away, I will
You
stay.
can absolutely do that.
But I can't. You haven't allowed it from the guys that are here. They're here every day.
But he
They
just said
want
he would.
to-
No,
He
it's,
said
you guys,
get the list.
remember we talked about the support function? So Corey Bennett has been offered that job.
I-
Corey's working now at Calamasa. He's on the fence regarding this just because of what he's trying to balance in his life. So if he gives us a straight answer, yes or no, he's gonna be able to respond with that 30-minute window from his residence. And that's what I was talking about in a couple board meetings ago, that's what we're trying to work on, to see if we can bring people like Corey, because obviously Corey has a lot of passion for the program and for the community. So there is, don't say it's not happening, because it is.
Okay,
And
well,
it's just a matter of,
I'm gonna respond to that, only because Mecham, you know who I am. I've talked to you before. My husband, when he was offered that position, he talked to Johnson. My husband is home. All he does is train our horses. So he's home all day, 24/7. Okay, I'll get back to you. Let me talk to Mecham.
Was it a career position?
It was what Bennon's doing right now.
There's,
So there you had someone who could be and answer from his home, 24/7. But then you got, nobody talked to anybody supposedly. Johnson never got back to Audubert. So he's like, excuse my French, fuck it, forget it. And you guys know he has all this dirt.
He does, absolutely, yes, I know him very well.
So put him on the list.
So is he still,
if he's
feel
interested,
epic, or
talk to
would
me, I
he,
can see
yeah.
what we
He's,
can do.
he's fed up.
I think
He's-
Mike's
he's
done.
a guy could run him
They
away.
did him so dirty, Shannon.
Nick, basically, the bottom line comes down to the reason you can't volunteer and I can't volunteer
But
and you can't volunteer.
I could go get certified.
If you could get the certification.
And I can, and I would, if I would be allowed to sit here,
Right.
I would do it.
We
I'll
are.
make
Granted,
that-
I would be useless during the
You can
day
get out
because I
and
go to
show me.
work.
Problem is,
I will
you
make that
have to
commitment
go
right now.
through
I
the
don't-
fire
I will
academy.
make that commitment right now, and you can fill me. If you wanna go get all of your certs and re-sign up and meet all of the legal requirements,
And we can
I
stay
will put
right
you
here.
right here. Absolutely, I will.
And we're all, okay, so go do it.
Go Nick.
Go Nick.
First time,
If anybody else might want to do
If
that.
they can meet
The training
all the
requirement.
training
We're witnesses,
requirements,
that's all you need.
absolutely.
Oh, that he would.
Do it.
I'm sorry, I disagree.
But
Because
basically,
when
it
I
comes
went
down
your
to
meeting-
you would have to be
Well,
trained to
but
be a
I
full-time firefighter.
understand, but what they need to do first is demonstrate that with the ones we already have.
Because I was
Again,
told by you,
We have
Mecham,
two.
that
We need
when I
this
went to the-
demonstrated.
When I went to the
What you're
quarterly
telling-
meeting, when I went to the quarterly meeting, you guys were there, you said Audubert and Benham will stay at the station because they are locals.
I was
Then
there
it ended
too.
up where they were telling them they had to go other places, so like, no, we
I
were
remember
told
we had to go to.
that we were gonna stay here at Ranchita, because we're locals.
So,
So
Then
I'm
we had to
just
go to shelter.
throwing that
Yes,
out there to you.
I mean, what I'm saying is I think it needs to be demonstrated by you. We have to. And as soon as you can live by these words that you just said you would commit to with the people we have, I think you're gonna see a groundswell
so
of people
we have
start
made
to
the
all of a
offer to
sudden.
both of those individuals. Right?
That's not what Carol.
Okay,
No.
what she's saying is, I have said that now, and I said it at the meeting we were at. So, this is the first that I've heard, so you can come in here and ambush me with the motion that I didn't do something I said, but I said it then, I'm saying it now, and I said it in that quarterly meeting, that both of those gentlemen can be assigned here. They need to do 3 shifts a month, they can cover from home. I can't be any more clear for it, and I'm sorry, if he's mad and he doesn't wanna sign up to the program, then there's nothing I can do about that, because I've made the availability of the option for him to be here. So if he doesn't wanna participate in the program, sir, I don't know how I can demonstrate
The
my commitment
problem
other than
is
coming here
this
and
comes
saying-
from 2 years ago, when these
Okay.
guys were ready and willing and in the program.
And that
it
wasn't our
never-
program 2 years ago. So as I just said, I came here and talked about we retooled. We're in another retool right now. Largely because we do have, they're not a large number of people. I don't have 50 of these people now to count, but I've got about a half a dozen folks that live in their communities at fairly slow stations that came to me and said, look, I want to be a part of the program, but it is, I don't want to call it a waste of time, I'm paraphrasing their words, but why am I going to go drive and sit at a station that I probably won't want to call at when I live half a mile away? And the compromise was, are you willing to sign up and commit for the day? And are you willing to come in the morning, check the equipment out, do your staffing, do your little bit of stuff in the morning, and carry the pager? They said yes. So we went back. That's a change in county government. I went back through county human resources. We got the position established. We've implemented it. So now I don't know what happened. And your husband's he's a good man, and I do for him and Corey both. But if he doesn't want to participate, there's nothing I can do about that. You know. And if he would like to talk to me, he has my contact as you do. And he could have reached out to me a year ago, or 6 months ago, and said, Chief, you told me this. You may not always like what I say, but I'm a man of my word. So I'll make the offer again. And if he wants to come out, I'll come out and take him to lunch and we'll sit down and talk about it. I have no interest in not having those people involved in this program. You know, we can even lower the EMS requirements to public safety first aid. I mean, there is minimum requirements. They just have to meet that and commit to the program.
Do you guys offer the training, or is that something?
No, we
you have
offer
to
it.
pay for?
We offer.
Where can I find
We-
the driving
We
requirements?
just did a class in fact, we just did a class in July.
Where can I find the driving requirements?
For what vehicle?
For that patrol out there.
So the patrol, we do an in-house patrol class that covers the emergency vehicle operations, or the equivalent of, I don't want to get into all the code stuff, but the equivalent of the NFPA driving, the minimum requirement. We don't require driver operator 1A, which is the 40-hour class to drive a fire engine. So we basically do a 2-day emergency vehicle operations course for the code 3 for the insurance. It's a total of 5 days. Four. We can do it in 2 weekends, and then we do the vehicle operations.
So who's actually requiring this?
So one
Is it a
is the NFPA requirements, which are codified through state fire training and state statute, and they're then further codified in Senate Bill 1207 and Labor Code 6400. And I would be glad to give you all of the legal requirements. If you don't believe me, I will give you the law and the links. You can read the material yourself. It's very clear on the level of training that we have to provide. So what we do is, sometimes within that training, like vehicle courses, there is a difference between driving a patrol and driving a big Type 1 fire engine. So we do have some gray area within those training requirements based on the vehicle. Now the water tenders, we don't, because of the size and the weight, the center of gravity. We require the full driver operator series for the water tenders.
Is there an age requirement?
18 years old.
I have a question.
And
If-
a max? A max?
As long as you can pass the medical, there's no.
So no lady like me can do it?
You could.
If this is a state requirement to drive those vehicles, how come volunteer firefighters?
Well, it is, one, it is a state and a national requirement. Two, it is also an insurance requirement. And it is a workers' comp requirement that we have training standards in order to get workers' comp.
Then how come a volunteer firefighter can drive the same vehicle on the road?
Where?
In Julian? When we had
I'm not gonna discuss Julian.
Well, this isn't,
You just have
they 2 months ago, 3 months ago, they had a volunteer station there. They got in the same vehicle and drove it down the road, correct?
So if you read my report I wrote to LAFCO, it's very clear in there that they were violating the law. And we
A
will-
lot of the
that will
records
be-
were missing out of our files.
And that will be,
There's nothing in
that
our
will
files.
be handled on a separate case.
What law are
Definitely.
they breaking?
Which is, if I heard you earlier say, that point there is a lot of the reason why so many of the volunteer stations are going by the wayside, because of
The training requirements.
legals,
Legal-
ramifications,
Legal standards.
financial,
Workers' comp and
OSHA, it
insurance.
says, just like so many
Insurance.
things in
Today's world.
our
Insurance.
country
But
today.
it
Yeah,
shouldn't
it's
take
just-
8 months to be able to drive a vehicle like that. I mean, because you're saying like the bigger vehicles require more,
So
but these vehicles require a lot less and there's more gray area, so it's a 2-day class. Why does it take
because
so
you
long?
have to be, in order to take the class, there's a prerequisite that you be a firefighter 1. Again, anybody in here I could give the keys to, and you could drive that vehicle down the road to a call today. But there's also a training of what do we do when we get to the call? Do we have the ability to understand the situation? Do we know what to do in that situation? Are we gonna exceed our capabilities? What are the capabilities of the vehicle? So the minimum requirement for the driving is firefighter 1. State fire, or if you want the requirement, you can look up, it's NFP
For driving what?
1001.
The patrol? For driving
For
the
the-
patrol?
To
any-
take the course, to take the driving course, you have to already be a firefighter.
It's the basic.
1.
Right.
Yes,
Be
you
a firefighter.
have to have basic firefighter training, and we require basic medical training. It's not driving the vehicle. It is, what do you do when you get the call? I can send 100 vehicles to a call, but if nobody knows what to do when they get there, they're not an effective force. So I haven't done anything to increase your level of protection by having a vehicle show up at your house. So the
That's their
8-month or longer
paramedics,
requirement
and it's a medical.
is the training that gets you the ability to then drive the vehicle and supervise somebody else on the vehicle.
What-
And that takes probably a year to get somebody to that level.
What
Unless-
NFPA standard is that for firefighter 1? You have to be before you drive it?
10,001.
Huh?
10,001?
10,001, okay.
So, I think honestly, as a community, I mean, we're concerned about fires, but I think this community, more generally speaking, is concerned about the health of people.
EMS response.
EMS response. So, why do we need to make these same requirements of people that are staffed here to respond to an EMS call? If they're not, if there's no fire, they're not going to drive into a fire and get stuck. Why can't this person who can drive the vehicle, can save a life, is qualified to save the life, has been trained to save the life, get in that car and go and drive?
So are you talking, because these programs do exist, of just an EMS responder?
Yeah.
There's a non-firefighting
If
classification?
you gave us EMS, this community would be very grateful.
Very.
Very happy.
So I just want to be clear, so you believe that there's enough people here in this community, if we were to provide the EMS training and some type of driver's training for a, let's just say a pickup, without fire equipment, hose and water, do you believe there'd be enough people here that would cover this community? 7 days?
Absolutely.
Yes.
100%.
Yep.
And I think you would see your problems in this community kind of not, we're still gonna have our meetings and there's gonna be issues, but I think you're gonna see a large portion of the anger and the frustration here go by the wayside.
People are scared for their families.
Yeah.
So the
We
guy-
live in an area where if there's a fire, there's so much wind, we're leaving.
Yeah.
We're grabbing our stuff and we're leaving. We're gonna pray that you guys do your job. It's not the fire that we sit here and worry about, which is why I ask the questions on the drivers. Like, it doesn't make sense to us because at the end of the day, we're worried about these people that are gonna have heart attacks in 30-minute response time.
Bruce Thompson
They have an
had a
hour
heart
to be in the
attack. Race
hospital.
Road's got
It's 30 minutes before someone even shows up.
anaphylactic issues.
So you guys want an
Kids get
option
hurt.
just of EMS?
We
versus
want
what we-
someone here.
Right.
You know what? If they can do
just.
fire,
Well,
if
I
they
mean,
can do
it's
fire,
kinda
that's
like-
awesome.
that's the biggest concern is EMS for you guys.
It's
And I know we've talked about that in the past.
It
So
is.
an option could be thrown out there, like Chief was saying.
If you guys came with, I think you would find the community in agreement. Like, that's our biggest concern.
It's
Oh,
a
You know,
step
at the end-
forward
at the
Yes,
from
yes.
you guys
So-
to
So
show
let me
us.
just point.
Yeah.
I think this is a great idea, and I have no reason not to support it. We roll them into support measures. I'll still tell you, I don't think that's the answer. I think
It's
it's,
a
I think it's
But
another
it's a
Band-Aid.
step in the right direction.
It
just
is
very
a step,
tough.
and it is a step. I still think it's a Band-Aid.
I-
And I think why we can work on that, my hesitation is that I've been very clear with the county that the answer is career staff, that we have to flip the
I
switch.
think we should.
I like that.
If
And I
he's
want-
saying it and we can get it, let's
And,
do that.
and I think we go down two paths here of working on these, but I I don't wanna come to you folks, I mean, I'm willing to take it back, so don't think it's a good idea. I don't wanna take that back to my bosses and say, well, hey, there's this idea of another Band-Aid. I think through Eric and myself, we can work on that, and it's not a hard program to develop. Relatively speaking, I think we still have the same requirements. You gotta sign up for 3 days a month and commit to being available and go to the training, and then we can hold the training right here in this room.
There's physical requirements
And the county.
Some basic, you'd have to pass a basic.
to be able to lift certain
yeah,
amounts,
exactly.
bend over. And
But it wouldn't be the same medical that we would do for a volunteer firefighter. But it's not like I can flip the switch and do it. They're gonna have to look at what would that medical be. Is it the equivalent of a DMV physical? I mean, I don't know without talking to the.
And won't the county have a problem with OSHA right there, or any kind of, the insurance? Who would be covering these EMS people? Is it gonna be a county
No, because
stop?
the insurance is based. The insurance is based on the risk and the environment we're gonna be putting people into. And so, look, we have to be covered by workers' comp,
Okay, that's
right? And so when somebody, picks up a patient or hurts their back, you have to be covered. And,
Right.
So when we look at going to the insurers and even in the county self-insured, but they still have like a board,
All right.
We just have to identify the training. So I'll give you an example. In addition to EMS training, if we're gonna have people working along highways, then we have to do the highway safety class and make sure we know to wear their vest. So we would have to sit down and go, okay, what environments are people gonna be put in? If they're potentially exposed to responding to an accident with hazardous materials, then we at least have to legally do the hazardous materials awareness. The 4L course, not the responder course. So we would have to really look at the scope of the hazards we're gonna put people into, and then what is the training to mitigate those hazards. This is not, this concept is not unheard of. When I was in Riverside, community similar to Rancho Carrillo, you actually have to drive into Orange County and back. Same kind of an issue. They could not maintain a volunteer force, and they went to a community EMS responder system. They're a very isolated community of 74 homes. That's about a 40-minute drive through the middle of the Cleveland National Forest, and they went to this model, and they've had some success with it. They've had days where they've had nobody there, but they have had a few successes. So the model is out there for a community EMS responder. But again, I really think the answer is encouragement. And again, we've done incremental improvements. When Mercy came on board, and we started dispatching, we worked with them. Our data analysis unit to move the ambulance from up on Mesa Grande to Warner Springs. That ambulance probably 20 minutes closer here. I know it's not in your community. We've made about every incremental change we can make. So.
What does it take to make it a career station?
money.
$1 million a year.
That's gonna be your effort in January, you think?
Well, it starts now.
Okay.
I mean, it starts now.
But the first time you can propose it to the county board of supervisors for funding is in January. That's the first time your availability.
If you're looking at targets, I mean, the work starts now. I'm going to show this. Nobody can keep this as this is a draft document that is not ready to go out. Can you hold my page? But this report, this is some of the analysis that we've already done. We've looked at the response times, we've looked at the coverage, the community risk hazard, and you can see right here is some of our current options. So we're funding out the staffing. So the one firefighter, I put Captain Ortega on shift work, is 177. There's some other options. These numbers are not all completely accurate. Some of it depends. Whether Julian comes in or goes out. Because if they come in, I actually need a few more people the way our relief modules. If Julian doesn't come in, I need less people because we have the 7th day of coverage through our relief. So that's why these numbers are There, but this, I wanna show you, this is the start of the staff report. This is all of our current volunteer
Yeah.
rosters. And if you looked at this report compared to last year, you're gonna see these numbers. I mean, look, fire apparatus engineers, you know, we're down the graph. If you look at our seniors, which are our drivers, so the numbers aren't there.
Right.
And we are tracking these numbers continuing to drop. This is where you're at 17. So if you look at entry level and journey, we do pretty good. But the kids don't want to come in. We
Right.
don't. And then, you know, your coverage and something else. The one thing I do have to share though is we are at a 1444 average right now. Now, what that means is, you know, half are worse and half are, you know, half are better. But just when we make the arguments, we have to make arguments based on facts. So when we throw out that it takes them 30 minutes to get here, it's not factually true. So when I go to the county and they look at the data, they're going to look at the data. We have to make the argument together about, okay, when that engine's gone, or we have to look at best case scenario, or we need to look at 90th percentile compliance. All of those are things. But we have to be very careful when we're throwing out numbers, okay? So whatever those numbers are, that we are all speaking the same language and that we're making the argument that, look, I could have a 14-minute response time out here. Okay, maybe that is the average. It is the average. But you compare that to how many days the station is dark, that's probably a better argument to make that, hey, we never know when an emergency is gonna occur. We never know this. This is why we need this, because the staffing. Because if you just wanna focus on one key factor there.
But wouldn't it be also good to do a community risk analysis? But by that I mean, look at the population, look at the number of elderly, look at the chronic conditions, look
So I'll
at
show
the
you,
disabled.
and this is not our, it's a very complex formula, but this is the community risk analysis.
Chronic conditions.
So, yeah, there's not, this is a snapshot of it, and I'd be glad to give you the full, they do a comprehensive community risk analysis. So those are the types of arguments that you go in and make. Travel time, I mean, all those things, we can't, I'm trying to be helpful. To throw out that it takes 30 minutes here, it's not factually correct. I think
Right.
when we look at all of the other factors, it's a better argument to make.
So that said, based on a comment that Jamie was making earlier, is that there are people who don't even call 911, they choose. So the message to the community, although albeit a risk for them, is to call 911. If you don't get a response at a time where you feel safe, then by all means, down the road you go. But that we don't have this data because people aren't calling.
Yeah, so here's the other part, I want to address that. So anybody who's going to drive themselves to the hospital